It is January 1942, and the German invasion of the Russian homeland territory has begun. But it isn't so much of a ground offensive, more than a localized raid. Only a couple German cavalry divisions have captured western Ukraine and southern Ukraine, leaving an opening now for the motorized divisions of the German 84th Army Group to punch into Kiev or eastern Ukraine. But a spoiling attack by the Russians could easily close off that window, and the Russians have a sizable force of their own. The German 84th Army Group has plenty of medium armor, mechanized, motorized, and artillery towed behind, but the Russians themselves, the Mujiks of Russia, have gathered their arms and have marched to Kiev, and now hold it with a tight grasp. In Kiev, we have a sizable force of infantry, an anti-aircraft gun, and in eastern Ukraine, we have a little less troops to throw into the mix, but we do have some forces present on the map here outside the army group. It is enough to hold off the German invasion, and if we play our cards right, we could even grasp western Ukraine once again and hold off any potential German attack for at least another season. So the Germans and the Russians are somewhat at an impasse south of the Pripyat marshes. To the north, the Germans in the 91st Army Group are in Estonia. It is a small group of forces comprised of 8 infantry type units and a medium armor, but between that and what the naval transports can throw at Leningrad, well, it is still quite not enough to grasp the city. The Mujiks have gathered and marched towards Leningrad, and in Leningrad itself, behind the fortified lines, we see a sizable force ready to throw off the enemy. And between the fortified line present there as well, and the coastal artillery, the challenge of holding off the Germans, well, the Germans probably wouldn't attempt to attack into Leningrad. To the north, our weakest point, in Kola Peninsula, we've seen multiple attacks, or at least one attack at this point against the Kola Peninsula, almost capturing that territory, which would have changed the equation to some degree, where now the Germans in Kola Peninsula could have swung south with their army group of medium armor and attempted to capture Leningrad. But having hold onto the Kola Peninsula, it changes the equation once again. Although this is the weakest link, it's also the most time-consuming for the Germans, as they could only make one combat round each turn in the tundras of Murmansk. A tough fight for them indeed. So the Germans have checked themselves against the Russians, and the Russians expend all their resources in holding them off. The Germans have stripped the western frontier, or the western coastline of Europe, so as they could throw everything eastwards, and so now we see Aquitaine, Normandy, Picardy, Belgium very lightly held, with minimal forces there, and the British themselves have a sizable force ready to throw into any invasion on this front. The Italians, for their part, are still not necessarily weak. They have a sizable force, but without much avenues to pursue an attack. We have in Tobruk, we have some forces ready to go, but the British in Cairo are ready to defend with a fortification ready to go, and fighting in this desert terrain would be quite difficult for the Italians. And so the Italians find themselves checked by the might of the British Royal Navy, as well as the defensives that the British have thrown up in Cairo as well as Gibraltar. The Russians on their eastern front are now reinforcing this position with what Mujiks they pulled from the far reaches of Siberia, but have little offensive power, and against the might of the Japanese air forces, well, any attack against the Japanese would be difficult. The Japanese have recaptured the coastline territories of China, and now could push on deeper into Chinese territory, but against the might of the CCP forces present here, it might be just a long, drawn-out, expensive attritional war with minimal gains in Yunnan, Shanxi, and Suyan, only collecting maybe 4 IPPs worth of income after long and brutal combats that would be costly in the face of all the AA that the CCP has to offer. And the Japanese have other things to contend with. The Americans are on the rise. The Americans have 61 IPP of production points per turn, and at 63 they can declare war against the Japanese. So the Japanese find themselves on 2 fronts, or at least on without the capacity to function a 2-front war, and the Americans and their mighty income can start coming across the Pacific and quickly quench any thirst for a Japanese empire building. And with the KMT tidied up in a small little island, perhaps the Americans would try to liberate that island and break forth and recover some territory that was lost to the KMT forces. The FAC are not being oppressed enough or condensed enough, and find themselves with the liberty to pursue Russian attacks into southern Iran, southern Iraq, and so the Russians are hard pressed on this front. And with being engaged against the Germans on the east front, they have little to spare on this theater. The British find themselves in excellent position in the Mediterranean, managing to hold the Italians in check on the British islands, being quite secure. No opponents on the frontiers of France, and with France being a prime target with plenty of excellent divisions here in Paris, with plenty of victory points in Paris. To recover that territory will be quite sizable. 3 victory points altogether. We know for a fact that the Allies will eventually liberate France. The FEC is not being oppressed enough, seeing as they have enough resources to push abroad, and Anzac is nicely held as well, and Cairo has enough troops to defend it that they can afford to send some forces towards Iraq as well. All in all, the Allies are doing quite well all across the situation, all across the world. The Allies are doing well, and the Comintern and the Axis are effectively checking each other. Things are developing, and we'll see how they'll go further. Hello friends and gamers, so this is turn number 12 for Operation Montagnards, and I haven't drawn any things on the map here because I put it into a save file. So let me quickly, well, maybe I should overwrite this, but I will quickly load up this one, and then we'll be able to see how things look for the Russian planning. So as I've mentioned, the Russians are in a bit of an impasse against the Axis. The Axis are a bit of an impasse against the Comintern, leaving the Allies to be constant harassers on all our fronts. And so we'll have to play our cards right, and maybe we'll have to wait until a second front opens on the Western Front on the French coastline before the Russians can press on to the offensive once again. But we'll have to see how that pans out. Perhaps the Russians will have to invest into the Eastern Front a little bit further so as to liberate our CCP cousins to the south, but we'll have to spend time considering our future options. Alright, let's start with our tech rolls. I'm only rolling for 2 factories because I'm moving one of my factories. So let's roll for improved construction. That's a 1, that's an absolute miss. This one should be an 8, and it's a 3, so that's an absolute miss. Let's go to our purchases. The CCP have $9 to spend, so they're getting 3 infantry. The Comintern have 56, so they're spending all of it, lend-leasing an anti-aircraft gun to the CCP, building an airfield, and also repairing the damage in Leningrad. And as for the rest of it, it all scatters away pretty quickly. 2 militia upgrades, 3 militias, infantry, 2 T-34s, fighter, and anti-aircraft gun. All right, let's get started with our the CCP over here. So we have in Kwaichao, we have 4 infantry moving up from Yunnan to Kwaichao, 3 infantry from Yunnan to Sikang. We have 3 cavalry divisions moving from Shanxi down to Tibet, and then we have 1 infantry moving from Qinghai to Shanxi, AA gun coming from Suyan and Xingkang to Qinghai. And now all we're left to do is to roll for our recruitment roll, which would be, I believe, it's 8 or less. A 5 is a success. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going to get 2 militia. I'm just going to copy from here. And while we're here, I'm going to just place our infantry here. Done. And I'll just go ahead and delete these 3 guys here. For income, I believe they get 6 because I only have Shanxi, Suyan, and Yunnan, plus the $2 from having a railway connection here. And that ends their turn. Turning our attention to the Russians. So we're going to make a few little attacks here. We're going to have 2 militia crossing a river over here, and 3 infantry and a militia crossing over to Western Ukraine. 4 infantry and 2 militia coming down south here. And then 1 more attack over here. Fighter, airborne to Ankara. And that is it. So let's roll for this one first. Where's our dice? So the red will be for the fighter, the black for our airborne. Rolling. So 6 and a 1. 1 is a success, and the militia here in Ankara needing a 3 or less. Losing that one, and we've picked up Ankara for the Soviets. Good stuff. Turning our attention to the other battles here in Ukraine, we have 4 infantry, all rolling at a 2. I'll just roll these first. 1 hit, and the cavalry defending at a 2 or less. Miss, so we can take this one out. And we've captured southern Ukraine. And now, over in Western Ukraine, we roll this one out as well. This time we have 3 infantry. Misses all around. And we have 3 militia. Yep, 3 militia rolling here. And this will all be at 1 or less. And we almost had a 1. And the defensive cavalry rolling at a 2 or less. And a miss there. 3 infantry rolling again at 2 or less. Misses there. And then we have our 3 militia rolling at 1 or less. And 2 2s there, but misses all around. And the cavalry missing at 7. Okay, again, round 3, 1. And we'll go 2 for the militia. And lastly, for the cavalry, 3. Oh, sorry, 2. Okay, nothing. And now we move on to round. I believe this is 4 now. Misses there. Militia rolling. Misses there. Cavalry. Misses there. Alright, infantry. This will be something like 6 rounds now. There's finally a hit. And the cavalry is going to roll. Miss. Alright, so we managed to conquer what we needed to conquer. And our units move up. Okay, good stuff. That is all for our combat moves. And now we go for the non-combat moves. Actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to upgrade this. I don't know why I have 2, but I'm at 53. So that's pretty good, I guess. Alright. Alright, so we're going into non-combat moves. We have 3 militia from Karelia to Kola. We have these 3 guys coming to Leningrad. So that's 2 infantry and militia. These 4 infantry, 2 militia, and 1 militia from northern Russia going into there. We have 2 militia from western Ukraine coming to Smolensk. We have 2 militia coming in from Uralkursk to southern Belarus. We have these 4 guys from Moscow to western Ukraine, Russia. 2 guys from Saratov to Moscow. And 1 guy from Ural to Gorky. 1 guy from Orenburg to Saratov and Tula-Lipetsk coming across to Uralkursk. We have 2 light armor coming into western Russia. And let's get this tactical bomber is going to come down here. He can reach there by going 1, sorry, like that, because he's coming for Leningrad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, running down there. And the seaplane comes down to here to Donetsk, Kuban. Alright, these guys coming into the 74th Army Group. And what else? We have some dudes coming into Donetsk, Kuban. And now we have a bigger movement from the Uralkursk. The newly formed 98th is going to come 2 spaces to northern Caucasus. Going to be joined by 4 motorized and a towed anti-aircraft gun there as well. And then I have these 4 militia coming here. These 2 units from Kalminskaya coming to south, and 1 militia coming down to Transcaucasus, and these 3 guys coming into Stalingrad. Then I have a transport plane from Crimea going 1, 2, 3, pick up a dude. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, pick up a dude. 4, 5, 6, 7 landing here, grabbing a dude, dropping him off over here. And these 3 guys over here are going to come down south. This fighter is going to land over in Azerbaijan. And then I have a fighter in in Smolensk going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 landing here. And looking at the situation, I think we've moved them all. Yeah, I can't see anything on this front that needs to be moved, barring some ships. These 2 ships are going to go 1, 2, 3 with the permission of the Germans, because they are not opposed to having my ships coming out of the Baltic. And this guy's going to come across the seaways to over here. And now we take a look at this side. We're going to have these 4 dudes from Amur coming down south. We have these 6 dudes from Chita to Amur. This guy coming in from northern side of Magadan south. These 2 guys, Irkutsk and Buryatia to Chita. And these 4 guys from Angara to Buryatia. 1 infantry from Angara there. This militia from Vanavara to down south to Novosibirsk. And that about covers all of our movements. Now we turn our attention to our placements. So we send this dude to the railway line here. We build an airfield in in Azerbaijan. We have a medium armor. Sorry, that's nothing. The medium armor is nothing. It just represents the damage on the Leningrad factory, which was 9. So the 9 damage gets taken away. And the factory gets put back in Leningrad. And now we can use it for future dice rolls. Okay, so that's all taken care of here. Including that one. And then we have these guys to put on the board. So let's just drag them all over here. We'll put our we have two railway points. We're going to send this to Transcaucasus. And that's that. Yeah, that's that. Then we have, hold on one second, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I mean, I suppose they could do some damage there. Interesting. I'm just saying that the medium bombers can kind of come in there and do some damage against us, but our fighters can scramble against it if need be. Okay, purchases. Where do we put our purchases? Here they are. So we are going to put this infantry here, these two T-34s here, this fighter here, and I think we left something behind somewhere. Okay, never fear, it's all going to be good. So we did 2 militia upgrades. That means that this guy's going to be upgraded, and this guy's going to be upgraded, and I put 2 militia there. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this stuff, leaving us with 1 militia to put on the board, which will go over here. And that, oh, barring 1 anti-aircraft gun being placed over here, that is basically that. I can't see what else needs to be done, and I think I could go ahead and clean up the board. Just a quick review of what it looks like. Yes, I can't see what else needs to be done. I think I'm pretty satisfied with that. Alright, I'm gonna go clean the board up. It's too bad our tech rolls didn't work in our favor, but next time my hope is we'll do a sizable, get a nice sizable chunk of change. That would be pretty cool. And I do believe that is it for everything. Okay, everybody, we turn this over to the Japanese player. We have 53 bucks, plus we add another $3, so 56. Should be a little bit more now. Nope, because we lost Iraq, so yeah, 56. So that's exactly what we have here. So altogether, we've kind of dropped down in our income, mostly by dint of the British here attacking southern Iraq. Oh, and I suppose I suppose we could say that. Alright, thank you all for watching. I appreciate your guys' attentiveness and seeing how things are going. It's a lot of fun for me. And I hand this over to the Japanese player and see what he can do with the situation, see how it evolves or devolves. Thanks all. Cheers.